A new bill makes it through, blocking arrests of wanted people who are overdosing at the time. Oh, okay. That's what's trending, brought to you by Legacy Group Capital Common Sense Lending.
What's trending? The drug crisis.
It became a rather contentious vote, but it did in fact pass because Democrats have control. House Bill 1574. And it expands protections for people who are experiencing some sort of medical issue as a direct result of an overdose, preventing the arrests of these individuals if they have outstanding warrants. Okay, so now we're not going to arrest people with outstanding warrants because they happen to be getting medical attention at the time, which is odd because it's not like they're the ones calling 911. It's someone else calling on their behalf, right? You're having an overdose. You're like, I think I'm having an overdose. Let me call 911. No, you're having the overdose. Someone else is calling 911. The bill's sponsor is Nicole Macri, Democrat. Guess which city she represents?
Seattle.
Bingo.
This bill will make sure that people feel safe to call for law enforcement help when someone is in overdose, and will be a huge improvement across the states.
Let me translate. They want the dude, and it's usually a dude, although not always, with outstanding warrants to feel comfortable that they're not going to go to jail. Okay, then.
I think that sums up the Democrat Party today.
Yeah, I think it does. In fact, let's have Dan Griffey, our friend from Allen, Republican, make the argument for us.
What if they encounter somebody who has a domestic violence restraining order and the next day goes and kills his wife? What if they encounter a murder suspect that they don't apprehend, and then that murder suspect the next day goes and murders somebody else? I know that there will be lawsuits against law enforcement that our local and county agencies will actually have to pay up for.
Oof. Where do we go from here? Honestly, where? Because they want to pretend that what it is they're doing is somehow noble because it's saving lives. But is it saving a life? Because to, State Representative Griffey's point, if you don't go after someone, especially if they have multiple warrants, what does that indicate about them, about their personality, let's say?
Probably not a good guy.
Yeah, they like to commit crimes, yeah? Okay. And clearly having one warrant was not enough to stop them from committing another crime and getting that second warrant, yeah? Okay. Are we all on the same page? Likely willing to commit a third crime to get that third warrant?
Well, I think that's where they draw the line.
Oh, is it? Do they stop at 2? They're like, okay, you know what? I'm just so tired. I'm a tired person. I'm going to move on. No, of course not. And so we're saying to a cop, we're not going to arrest that person because he happened to be a drug addict, which, by the way, these dum-dums over on the left, they don't even seem to realize that. Let's say you're dealing with someone who's breaking the law because of their addiction. You're not going to get them treatment. You're not actually going to get them to stop. You think they stop after a drug overdose? No, they're chasing that high to get as close as possible before getting an overdose. But when they get that overdose and you bring them back, they want to chase that high again. Do y'all not understand that? Seriously? This is just so maddening. Now, supporters of the bill say that criminal justice policy should prioritize saving lives over punitive measures, but not saving the lives of the future victims to the person you had potential to put in custody rather easily, but were forced now not to. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Now, of course, the critics, as MyNorthwest.com points out, argue the measure ties law enforcement's hands, preventing officers from addressing outstanding warrants that could involve really dangerous individuals. One opponent, Deb Monjarez, the Republican from Yakima, argued the bill would enable ongoing substance abuse rather than pushing individuals towards treatment. Hey, look at that. Republicans are on the same side. Weird. We're making reasonable arguments. Odd. They passed it anyway. Now going to the Senate. It'll get debated there, no doubt. But if it goes into law, you have 90 days for it to go into effect if it passes out of the Senate. Okay, then. Sounds like I'm so grateful for the hardworking men and women of the state legislature, really on top of the issues that matter to us most.
I'd actually be curious if Bob Ferguson would sign that.
That's an interesting question. There was a piece in the Seattle Times by Danny Westneat a few days ago, maybe 2 days ago, or yesterday. I don't know. All the days blend together at some point. And it was about buyer's remorse from Democrats. They were wondering if they made the right choice with Bob Ferguson because, at least publicly, he seems to be moderate or at least liberal instead of quote-unquote progressive. And I certainly agree with that observation. I share that observation that publicly, outside of going to some of these rallies that are anti-Trump, because you kind of have to, and I give him a pass for that, but he's been speaking in more moderate tones outside of the anti-Trump stuff. If we're talking about Washington state issues specifically, having no connection whatsoever to Trump, he's been definitely closer to the middle than going further and further and further away towards Insleeville. And he's had meetings that have been rather productive, I'm told, with Drew Stokesbury, the state representative, who's the House Minority Leader. You know, we're getting that kind of response from this administration, at least a willingness to sit down and have conversations. He met with the Republican caucus to talk through issues. If you have buyer's remorse based on that alone, right? Because all of us can say, I think accurately, honestly, we can't point to anything he's done that is egregious to the left or something we would say, oh, thank God he did it as a Republican, right? He hasn't done that. The way that this works is a part-time legislature, so all the crazy stuff is going to happen first with this legislature, and then the bills end up going to him. If he ends up saying no to some of the crazy, okay, then I'm actually willing to give him a pat on the back. The speculation is that he is simply trying to get the sort of brand around being a quote-unquote moderate while allowing the House and the Senate to be the crazy. And if that's the case, and he's moderate in name only, is it a minnow? A moderate in name only?
A minnow.
A minnow?
Has to be another animal.
Well, no, minnow is not spelled M-I-N-O. It's spelled I-M-I-N-N-O-W, isn't it?
Well, rhino is not spelled R-I-N-O either.
Well, rhino is not a word. That's just what it sounds like. There's not another way to pronounce R-I-N-O.
Well, it's like a rhino, like the animal.
No, I know what it is. You think I was like, oh, that's what a rhino also is. You do understand we're not calling Republicans rhinoceroses.
I know.
Or rhinoceri.
I know.
Okay. So back to my point. If he ends up rejecting them, then okay, you know what? Actually, he is a moderate. If he ends up just signing everything, all the crazy, well, then maybe he is, in fact, just stepping back and allowing, the legislature to get that reputation. Presumably, he wants to be a senator, right? That's usually the next step up for a Washington governor. He's not running for president and getting anywhere. Washington is useless to the Democratic Party as far as electoral college goes. And he obviously doesn't have a national brand. But, Patty Murray, what is she, 96, 102, something like that. Maria Cantwell, she looks it, but she isn't that old. One of them's going to step aside at some point. I'm assuming it's Patty Murray next, just because of her age. He wants that gig, I'm assuming. And that might be, again, another way for him to win. Look, I'm a Democrat, but I'm not a crazy. That means I can get stuff done. We'll see. But this bill is a dumpster fire. Just FYI. Let's find out what else is trending.